What's up, everybody? Welcome to Scofie Sessions. My name is Jonathan Schofield. My friends call me Scofie. And if you are stumbling into this stream or you happen to accept an invite to attend, we are absolutely thrilled that you are here. If this is your first time, Scofie Sessions is my shameless excuse to hang out with peers of mine in the industry, friends, colleagues, and folks I just find darn interesting, and to run down some rabbit trails, get on some soapboxes, and have some fun. And if we can all learn something along the way, all the better. Today's special guest is no exception, and also not his first appearance on Scofie Sessions. I think we were called something different back in the day when you were here with us last, Matthew. I'll give you a second to introduce yourself in a little more detail here momentarily. But today's topic is actually a little special because we actually are doing part 2 of a 2-part series. And surviving, what did we call it? The AI survival guide for IT service providers. And this is part 2. Part 1 was last week, and I was a special guest on the Fort Mesa podcast, the MSP Roundtable, and that was a pleasure to participate there. If you want to catch the recording, there should be a link somewhere. If not, we'll get it in the comments. But if you're just stumbling into part 2, this is going to be great. Part 1 was brace for impact. So if you're an IT service provider, what does it mean with this new wave of technology and solutions and innovations, and how is it going to impact your relationship with your customers? And there's a lot of great questions asked on part 1, a lot of great engagement, a lot of maybe open-ended questions that maybe didn't get fully answered. And today in part 2, build for scale. So part 1 was brace for impact. Today is build for scale. So if you're here with us, the vantage point for today is, with all we unpacked in part 1, what can MSPs do tactically, tangibly, to take advantage of these opportunities in front of them to build revenue, to scale their businesses, to adapt, and to have better relationships with their customers? That's what I want for you out of today. But if you're watching here today, say hi in the comments. Let us know that you're here. And don't be shy. If you agree with something that Matthew or I have said, chime in and let us know that you agree. If you want to challenge it, even better. Tell us what you think. Tell us how you feel. Because Matthew and I, just like everybody in this industry, we're all figuring it out together because so much is changing so fast. So we covet your participation and your insight. All right, without further ado, Matthew, take a quick second to introduce yourself for those who may not have seen you before, and then we'll get started.
Well, before I introduce myself, one note. That music on the way in, it's just so relaxing. I gotta say, when I do the video content, it's like shock you with like EDM beats. And that was just like, it just really put me in the zone. So thank you for that little moment of zen. So I'm Matt Fish, founder of Fort Mesa. We help people build cybersecurity businesses inside their IT professional services organization. And I know if you're an MSP or other type of IT provider, you've probably been selling security solutions for a long, long time. But what's different right now is these days, there's some expectation at the client side as they become more informed, and as their customers and vendors have become more informed, that things need to be formalized. So usually what that looks like, formalizing, is aligning to a security standard or regulation, and then documenting and proving it out. And so it's there's a lot of methodology and philosophy there in making sure that the investments you put in formalizing your practices all pay off. You don't want to just be documenting without making money. So what we do is we help organizations build out the business case and help those end customers invest in that type of value offering. Which, by the way, when you formalize cybersecurity, you're going to find that your customers have all of a sudden gone from, I can't afford it because I don't really understand what I'm buying, to, oh, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you so much for that assessment. It seems like you're right. We absolutely do need one of these and one of these and one of these. You're right. And that type of buy-in mentality is another really great benefit of this formalization wave that's passing right now. And I want to say, just on the security angle here, as we sort of pivot into this AI topic, although we don't have to go all the way in quite yet, there's there's a security angle there to AI, but I want people to know that essentially the security theory is unchanged. It's still the same playbook. If you're formalizing things, everything's the same. And that it's not that us security people are ignorant of what's going on in the AI world. It's really just that AI's features and apps, guys. And if you secure your applications, you're going to keep your data safe. You're going to keep your customers safe. So, those investments are more important than ever, if only because people are relying on this technology even more with AI, which we were just talking about last week.
That's
all
right.
the ways that we need to brace for, hey, this could kill your MSP. But I think the other side of the coin that we wanted to go through today is actually this could be a really great moment for people, right?
I think I agree very, very much. In fact, whether you intended it or not, your introduction and explanation with what you do is highly relevant, I think, to this discussion, especially when I hear you make statements that are like, well, it's actually not really changed, like the core fundamentals and what's necessary from a cybersecurity perspective. Like the goalpost hasn't super duper moved, just like the way it may manifest itself in the specific applications of these policies and procedures and the things that you need may shift and evolve a little bit. But at its core, what you're doing with Fort Mesa is you're helping MSPs align security to an executive level business conversation with your customers that's elevating it from a tools and bytes conversation to, oh my goodness, this is something critical that's missing, and here's the outcome you can expect because of it. And my goal for today for the AI conversation is really, really similar to that. So the question I want to start with, I'm going to pull this up on screen. How will you use AI to build revenue in your MSP? Comment your answer. So if you're either watching the recording back later or you happen to be hanging out with us on LinkedIn or YouTube today, don't be shy. I'd be curious to hear from you if there's anything that you're doing right now that's actively helping you build revenue from using AI, or if you have plans to, or if there's something you're cooking, or if you have, even if it's just theoretical stuff you're thinking about. I want to hear the specifics, and I also want to hear the high level, like as to why you think it's going to work or why it may actually be working. I have some theories here, Matthew, about AI and how MSPs need to start positioning with their customers to grow revenue. But I'd like you to take a crack at it first. If you ran an MSP or an IT business yourself, what would you do tomorrow to prepare to build revenue the rest of this year and in 2026 leveraging AI?
Well, let me first start by saying I've been a big wet blanket on AI for many years because I'm a security guy, right? And AI is one of the when you're a security guy, all you think about is ways the civilization can end, right? Either by little chips at a time, right, or in one gigantic explosion, right? How can it go wrong? And like AI came along, it's like great, just what we needed. One more way for the world to end, right? Is like the AI takeover or something like that. And so I've been really for the last 10 years watching out for every advancement, and I've been. If you asked me even a year ago, and I know that a year ago people were using these agents, consumers were using these agents, people in businesses were using these agents. I know that people in MSPs were playing around with them. Coders were experimenting them. But I'm going to tell you, a year ago, I was still a wet blanket from the perspective of not only is this risky as heck, and the safest answer is to stay away from it, right? I didn't think that there was any way that an MSP could make a business out of this. I didn't think that there was an upside necessarily because it's just another app you need to secure, right? And going in and like ticking some boxes on the ChatGPT config and training your clients to always use like this website is not like, it's not really revenue producing, right? That's just like a moment, right? But what I've really seen change as these agents have reached a level of maturity over the last year is software companies that have been toying with pretty meaningless, like stupid, broken AI enhancement features for many, many years. So this is like, I'm talking about every piece of software we use, essentially, right?
That's right.
Every
That's right.
software, every piece of software you can buy, any product you can potentially interact with, right? Everyone's got their AI angle. And for the last 5 years, a lot of those were like jokes, right? Like our normal interaction with AI as consumers, as users is, oh man, I have to put in the support ticket and I've got to navigate to get around the AI bot before I can talk to a person. And that's what most people are like, oh great, I've got one more phone tree I need to fight through, right?
Right.
But you know, with the models reaching maturity now, and I think with software developers really learning what works and what doesn't, and where gains can be had, actually, we're seeing some really great productivity increasing functionality in most types of software. And it's not necessarily every vendor, because some vendors, frankly, are way more innovative than other vendors. They're more forward leaning than other vendors. But I look at that opportunity and I say, hey, as an MSP, right, your job is to be the liaison for all things technical for your client, right? That should be your job, if not for all of IT, at least for a part of IT, right? And the products and the business value in that corner of the customer's business, they're all changing. They're all changing. And so that's disruptive force. And disruptive energy is usually really great for MSPs, right? When businesses want to move from this office to that office, guess what? That's a project. When businesses want to move from this CRM to that CRM, oh, that's a project, right? And when businesses say, hey, we want to throw out everything we're doing in IT, right? And we want to move to this AI-centered model, like that's just, it's a humongous opportunity. It's hard to even estimate how impactful that could be as a potential windfall if you have a client that's going through that. And really all your clients are going to be going through it, right?
That's right.
So I guess you would say I'm still worried civilization might end. But from an MSP's perspective, over 12 months, I've gone from, I don't think there's a business here, to actually, this is like the most important business opportunity in the last 20 years.
Yeah, isn't that something? How in that such a short span of time, you've been able to see like, wow, there's a massive shift happening and there is opportunity to be taken advantage of. I, maybe to a fault, am a major fan of simplifying concepts so that anyone can like take it home and understand them. And if you're an MSP and or an IT provider and you're thinking about how can I leverage AI to build revenue in my MSP, and specifically, get customers to pay me for this, I want you to take the idea of artificial intelligence and all of its capabilities, and I want you to like bring it down to the idea of a shovel, okay? A shovel. And imagine, a caveman once upon a time, way back in, the caveman days, he's trying to dig a hole, all right? He's digging a hole and he's using a mammoth tusk to do it. Okay. He's digging a hole with a mammoth tusk and it is tedious and difficult. He's like scratching in the dirt. It's not very efficient, but it does dig the hole for the caveman. Okay. And then this guy shows up to him and he's holding a shovel. This caveman B shows up on the scene.
Now we're talking about a pointy spade, right? Like a
pointy spade that cuts into the earth, and you can lift out a massive, well, by comparison, a large amount of dirt. And he's grunting at his compatriot down in the dirt, and he's like, "Here's a shovel. Let me show you this thing." And at first the guy's like, "No, we've been digging holes with tusks for generations. It's fine. I don't need your fancy spade." But then he starts looking around and he sees all of his friends digging holes with spades. Then it's starting to be adopted. They're starting to use these spades. And it's like, you know what, maybe I will take a crack at this spade thing because it looks like it's catching on. I see everyone else around me, their holes are deeper and they're digging them in half the time. And AI is really just the new spade, right? It is the new shovel. It's the tool. Now there's 6 ways from Sunday that you can leverage AI, but when you're talking to your customer, Like, they don't care about the shovel until you care about the hole. Does that make sense? Like, what they're trying to do, right? Only to the extent that you can position AI as the solution to a core business problem is the extent to which your customer will care about what tool is being used. So, and this harkens back to what you said about cybersecurity. Like, some stuff just hasn't changed and probably never will. And when it comes to sales, I feel very much the same way. And just like you were saying, like, MSPs in the cybersecurity conversation have needed to and still need to tie the solution to a business objective. Same thing with AI. And that's not new. That's not new, even back to the day of the caveman selling a shovel to his friend. Like, before he would ever care about the shovel, you needed to demonstrate that, hey, I see you're trying to dig a hole there, Mr. Customer. So how do we translate this into conversations, meaningful conversations with your customers that you can have right now? Well, step number one, and this is going to seem obvious, but if I had a nickel for every time I've heard from MSPs that barely talk to their customers, I'd have way too many nickels. And that's step number one, is you actually have to have meaningful conversations with them. So go to your customers you have strong relationships with and ask them for an interview where you can interview them, and call it a QBR, call it a business review, call it whatever you want. But the goal for this conversation is to just map the breadth and depth of your customer's organization, not necessarily just from an IT perspective, but from a function and form perspective. Like, what is it that you do, and how is it you do the things that you do? And from there, you need to position yourself as like a business analyst, and you are looking for the bruise. And historically, you as an IT provider have been very good, for the most part, at identifying the technology bruise, the tool bruise. And now I would suspect many of you over the last 5 years, 10 years maybe for some of you, have gotten really good, or if not better, at identifying the security or the risk bruise. But now you need to go at it with just a slightly different nuance, because you have a different toolbox than you had 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And your capacity for shoveling dirt has amplified 50-fold, right? But it starts with a conversation with your customer. Like, where is there pain or friction or opportunity for improvement in your business? And you might need to broaden your horizons from conversations you used to have to being a little more open-minded here about everything that's painful. Like, how are they talking to their customers? How are they communicating? How are they delivering value to their customers? Where are there opportunities for them to make more money if things were different than they are now? So that's number one. And I've been talking too much, so I'm going to shut up for a second. Hear your thoughts on this, Matthew. And if you're watching, and I would want to hear from anyone in the comments as well, are you having these conversations? Do you need help to facilitate those conversations? Because I have thoughts there too. Matthew, what do you think?
I think to people that have been having these conversations about people's businesses on a regular cadence with their customers, they can sort of envision what you're saying. And maybe they don't really know what the AI opportunity yet is, right? But the important thing really is first to really understand what your customers do every day. And if the customer that this happened to me with ever, because I brought this example up a bunch of times, ever heard me, they'd probably be upset. I won't name names, but I went in when I used to be a IT consultant. I used to always during onboarding, I would insist I need to interview someone from every department. That was part of onboarding. I need to interview and understand what people's jobs are. And I would literally ask them, what do you do all day? Right? Can you explain to me what you do for your job? And they'd be freaked out because they would find out that I'm asking these questions that even their boss never asked, right? But then I would, like, while there's this one day I'm standing there walking around with the CEO, I'm asking clerical worker, what do you all do all day? And it turns out more than 50% of her week in hours was printing out files from one system and then walking them across the room and then scanning them back in to another system, right?
Yeah.
And so as a technologist, it never occurred to her that it could go straight from point A to point B without her walking across the room. But her boss was just like jaw on the floor. Now, he understood that even if he didn't know how to make that magical, he understood that like, oh, there's clearly something that could be more efficient there, right?
That's right.
He understood that. And people who have experience implementing AI solutions, right? Or have had experience navigating what AI models can do, right? Can sometimes see things that the people working in the business don't automatically see. Let me give you an example. Today, I'm working in my organization. One of the things we have to do is we have to do what's called ICP typing. So we have a CRM. It's got like 10,000 companies in it. These are our potential customers, actual customers, right? People that have interacted with our brand. Now, if we don't know who they are, right, we can't market to them. We can't, even if they come in the door, we can't necessarily, we don't even know who they are in the first meeting, right? If we haven't typed them. So if they're typed, right, we know which sales playbook to run with them. We know, what type of business they are. We know what type of material they might want to look at, right? There's all sorts of insights you get from knowing what type of business your potential customer is in, right? But it all starts with that ICP typing. And we literally used to pay a person to ICP type. 10,000 companies in the database, one at a time, go out onto their website and see what they do. Go out on LinkedIn, see who they are. And like, it was literally like this monotonous task of, do that little bit of research and then choose from a dropdown. They're this company, right? Click save. And we actually paid someone for a period of time to do that. We actually had a few different people. One person was really great at it. Another person was not so great at it. In fact, they were so bad at it, right, that they ended up tainting some of the data, right? So we stopped paying low-skilled workers to do that. We now use other methods to determine who our customers are. But it's so much better to just automatically know who you're dealing with. And for us, it's really valuable, but we couldn't figure out a way to do this efficiently at scale. So today I'm sitting down, and for the first time in a year, I'm considering, what are we going to do with all these ICPs that need to be typed on these companies? And so, it so happens that my CRM has just released out of beta the type of agents that can make that happen, right? Oh, I see a record in the database. It's like this value. Let me go out onto their website. We see what type of company they are. And then I can come back and then I can set the value to this or this. Now, this is not the kind of thing you can write a piece of software to do in a traditional way. This is the type of thing that an LLM excels at, right? It actually exceeds the quality we can expect from an entry-level talent. Because it's monotonous and it's repetitive, right?
That's right.
All they have to do is follow the rules, but the rules are just different enough that you need a real human or you need an LLM, right? And we can't just use like code that searches their website and looks for keywords.
Right.
So I'm looking at implementing this in our company, and it's so valuable to me that if my CRM didn't have this built in, right? But there was another CRM out there that did have it built, I would just be like, all right, let's switch vendors, right? And that's basically the situation we're in right now, where business owners are trying to solve real business problems. And I know that ICP typing, for anyone not in marketing, it's just like maybe like way over their head. It's critically important though, and it's monotonous and it's boring, and it's something that AI is good at, right? And if I can solve that with AI, everything that's blocking between here and implementing that agent, right, is now a critical business task. This isn't even like a theoretical like project that's just for fun, right, on the side. This is something that can return business value, right? So it's a really great example. And IT providers watching this, I want you to think about this example. Pretend you are Matthew's MSP, right? Pretend you provide IT support and cybersecurity
and automation services for Fort Mesa. They're your customer. Matthew is your customer. Okay. Now, you don't know yet what Matthew just shared with us because you've not had the conversation. Matthew just told you, he just told you what the hole is he's trying to dig. And he told you the mammoth tusk he's used in the past to try and dig that hole. And there's two ways you can approach this. You know that there's probably a way you could sell AI solutions or AI services to Matthew and make money. But if you come out of the gate to him as your customer and you say, hey, Matthew, I want to talk to you about AI. I want to sell you AI. Everyone's doing it, so you definitely don't want to fall behind. Let me tell you about AI. The odds are your buyer, your customer probably doesn't care a heck of a lot. But when you get the opportunity to hear, oh yeah, so here's a challenge in our business, it's usually very specific and tied to a critical business outcome like Matthew just shared, right? So ICP mapping, ideal customer profile mapping, right? We're talking about business intelligence for effective sales and marketing to build and grow revenue in Matthew's business. Is that important? Well, yes, it is important. And even like he just told us that it is important. It's important to him. And in their pursuit of their goals and objectives, here's a very specific business pain, a very specific business function that historically maybe an MSP would not have really asked questions about, right? Hey, talk to me about ICP mapping. Well, what? It's probably not in your discovery questions when you're talking to a first prospect. You're probably asking them more IT and security related questions. But now you need to broaden the horizon if you seek to leverage AI to build revenue in your MSP. You need to start having those executive level business conversations with your customers. Tell me where it hurts. If I had a magic wand and I could wave it and something in your business was true tomorrow that wasn't true today, what would you have? And you can only choose like 3 things. What 3 things would you want me to use that wand on? That's one of my favorite questions because it gets them to really think. It's like, all right, it's like, you know, you're rubbing the genie's lamp and I get 3 wishes, right? And you're saying, I can't promise that I can do any or all of these things, but until I know them, I can't know if I can or cannot. But thereby you'll understand the business pain. And now you can begin to position. So don't come out of the gate clubbing your customers over the head with, we need to talk about AI. We need to talk about ways that you can, use AI in your business. I think you need to start as the trusted advisor, which you should already be with your customer. Hey, I'm really curious what's keeping you up at night. I'm really curious what's holding you back. I'm really curious what some of the frustrations you've had recently. How do you feel about how things are going in your business? If I could change 3 things for you tomorrow, then they're not true today, and I could make them all true tomorrow, what 3 things would you choose? What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, there's a period of years where I was a solutions architect. I would go in and I would interview people, and then I would help them build business solutions. And sometimes that would mean custom software or buying something off the shelf or whatever. I used to search out for solutions to problems. I used to search for solutions to problems of scaling repeatable workflow processes. Like, okay, here's this thing that's happening on the page, maybe digital page, maybe actual paper page. How do we get this into a database, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was a really big question. Once it's in the database, what types of applications or guardrails can we put on that business process so that it's repeatably executed and then we can report on it, right? Mm-hmm. That's a tool that as a solution architect, that's like your primary tool, the thing you were looking for the last 20 years. However, with these AI tools, we're actually looking for, there's new challenges we can solve now. We've got new tools in our box. And with those new tools in our box, there's whole classes of problems we couldn't solve before, because no matter how great that workflow worked, essentially most of those database driven applications were just CRUD applications. What I mean by that is create, read, update, delete, right? And report against that, right? So You're either creating a record, You're reading a record, you're deleting a record, you're updating a record. That's basically what you could do in a database application. And we have all the screens that make it simple for a user to do that stuff. We might even have some background processes that do some automations that don't require intelligence. There might even be some algorithms in there for things it's possible to write an algorithm for.
That's right.
But with these new tools, we actually have a new question we can ask the business owner, which is, it's both incredibly satisfying in this uncanny way from a human perspective, because you can say to the business owner, is there a list of things in your organization that are super valuable to you, super important to you, but they're just so boring that you can't get them executed at the quality level required, or you can't consistently get them executed, or you can't even find a person to do the thing, or you tried and you had training challenges with that person, right? That's like a whole new class of problems that we could not solve with CRUD applications before. But now we can stick an LLM there. And if you train that LLM once, like literally your instructions for that LLM can fit in a little box. And you might actually require some skill to do that. And your business owner probably is not going to have that skill anytime soon, but they may eventually. And that's not where you're going to make your money. Where you're going to make your money is all the things attached to that, right? It's like a key that unlocks investments in business systems and information systems that they could never invest in before, because there was always a human that was required to accomplish a rote task before. And now we can take that sort of semi-structured, unstructured task, minimal skill, stick it into an agent, and all of a sudden build a repeatable process. And so I know that's super abstract, right? And I brought in one example, but I can think of 10 more that are relevant to my business today. And I can think of like hundreds from my clients over the last couple decades of not possible to solve in coding before, and humans are unreliable at it, and therefore we just can't solve this problem, to now this is a solvable problem, right? And if you're not asking the questions, you're not going to find those answers, and you're not going to be creating the project work associated with implementing all those new systems.
That's right. That's right. So there's a couple of keen observations you made that I just want to kind of highlight, and then a thought, and then we're going to have to wrap up here fairly soon here. Number one, your observation about the evolution of how software has functioned over the last decade or more, the CRUD database approach to most SaaS applications. And, you know, you look at the Googles of the world, and historically, like and the social media companies of the world, at their core, what are they? They are data companies, right? Like, and with cloud computing exploding in the last 20 years, and it's all been about the data. Get the data, collect the data, build the data, have the data. And then what we've had to do to function and use the data has been still largely mostly manual. Like, yeah, we can access it differently than we were before we were all pen and paper. But it's still largely up to the user and their competency to know how to interface with that data. That has been the thing that's held a lot of businesses back, whether they knew it or not. And I worked for a fairly large technology company that had multiple CRMs, truckloads of data. And then I led a key team in the sales development organization there. And to make business intelligent decisions was hard sometimes, because accessing the data was complex. Understanding the data was even more. And then being able to make an informed business decision off of it was took another level of skill and collaboration. And so certain things took a long time that theoretically are simple in nature, but in execution required multiples of stakeholders, a lot of planning, a lot of spreadsheet magic, and then ultimately going through some executive decision-making process. Now it's different, with your observation about how LLMs have changed the way we're able to interact with our data and understand our data and contextualize our data. And therein lies a lot of the secret superpower that you now possess as the trusted advisor, because all of these businesses still have line of business applications that are largely still dependent on that old school CRUD database mindset, where they've got customer information, they've got product information, they've got market research data, they've got all this data, and they're still interacting with it like they did in the early 2000s. You get the privilege to come alongside, really the opportunity to come alongside them and show, hey, here's the status quo of what you're dealing with. A lot of these core functions in your business are taking you way too long, costing you way too much, and holding you back from some of your goals and objectives because you're still running a business like it's 2005. It's 2025. And what if I could show you how those core business functions could now be X faster, Y cheaper, Z more effective at helping you achieve those goals? Just so happens the conduit that we're going to use that's going to take you from 2005 to 2025 is AI. Just so happens. But you really don't care about that. If I told you it was duct tape, and if I could truly deliver you this, you wouldn't care what this is. But yeah, it's AI. And I'll be thrilled to show you how if you care. But based on everything you've told me, Mr. Customer, about the status quo you live in, man, let's help get you there. Yeah, I said that those are the two main observations, right? And I really, really appreciate that perspective, Matthew. As we begin to wrap up here, what else should IT providers be thinking about when it comes to building revenue with AI in their business the rest of this year and into 2026?
Yeah, I think that there's just today, this isn't even like a theoretically in the future thing. I think that there's an opportunity for providers to begin supporting AI in business applications under a billable model on a per application or a per user basis. We have these new emerging suites of protocols like Model Context Protocol. There's basically generations of APIs being created for interaction between software and AI right now. And it's probably the last, I don't know. We always think it's the last disruptive wave in whatever we do. But I mean, really, when the AI can interactively act like a user in the user's software, right? Even the idea of API integration seems quaint because it's available in development right now. It's not yet production grade, but it probably at the speed that my CRM provider moves, I imagine in three or 4 months, this is going to be considered a production feature. There's an MCP, Model Context Protocol server, that you can stand up and you can connect it out to ChatGPT and you can connect it out to Gemini or Anthropic, right? And those models can then know all about my CRM, right? And interact. And that's without that piece of software even necessarily supporting AI, other than there's a connection to an AI model outside. So these bridges are being set up, and this is something that as a service provider, this is high skill stuff. It's many years before this stuff's going to get like snap simple, right? But in the meantime, people are investing in this, and I think there's an opportunity today to really upskill yourself and then create a revenue model to manage these interfaces for your clients, because it's not AI trapped in a chat box anymore, right? It's a large language model that interacts with a number of other AI models that interacts with all of your business applications, right? And that's it's super disruptive, and there's an easy revenue model just sitting right there, right, for you to begin doing that today.
I completely agree. I mean, so as we wrap up, a couple key points that we hit home in this conversation. Number one, it starts with understanding who your customer is and what their pain points are. So it's something as simple as grabbing a coffee with a client and saying, hey, like, I'm going to take off my sales hat for a second. I'm going to take off my IT hat for a second. And I want to put on my law firm hat or my financial services hat, like your manufacturing, healthcare, wellness hat, architecture hat, whatever it may be. And I want to understand through your lens what you're dealing with right now. So raw, authentic, sincere, meaningful connection and conversation with your customers to understand. Only then will you hope to identify. Now, if you have number two would be, you do need to start leveling up yourself. So a great place to do this, the sandbox, is your own MSP, right? If you're not already finding ways in your own business to identify your own opportunities for improvement, maybe you need to take yourself out to coffee first, right? And be like, hey, here's some ways that I wish things were different in my business, and start experimenting, play around in the sandbox of your own venture. And then the third piece I would say is identify ways that you can take those solutions at scale to other customers. So now you have stories to tell. You build one AI solution for one customer, you better document it. You better write a case study around it. So the next time you sit down with that engineering firm, you're like, I don't know if you'd be curious to learn, but one of our clients does the exact same stuff you do, and they were dealing with X, but now they're at Y, and we were able to take them there because of Z. And Z happens to be AI. Can I share that story with you? Now you have something that's repeatable, not just a one-off AI project, but something you can structure into a model that you can go to market with. All right. Matthew, I want us to conclude with you just saying a quick 3-sentence elevator pitch why IT providers should reach out to Fort Mesa, and what's the best way they can get a hold of you, Matthew?
Well, last year was the year of compliance. This year's the year of AI. If you want to deliver that value to your customer and you want to do it safely and securely, and you want to prove it and make money doing that, reach out to Fort Mesa. We've got a bunch of training kits, workshops, and really low entry points for you to get started. So fortmesa.com. Go ahead and apply to be a partner. No cost up front to join the network.
All right. So great to have you here. If you are part of my world, a few things before we wrap up. Tomorrow is the weekly MSP water cooler featuring myself and Robert Gillette from MSP Growth OS every Wednesday, most every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So bring your tough sales questions. Last week, we had a lot of really great engagement. And then if you're in the upstate of South Carolina or in the Southeast and in striking distance of Greenville, on Thursday, we have our monthly Upstate Channel Collab meetup. So if you're a service provider, you're a vendor, you're a thought leader, someone who's passionate about the IT services channel and space, these are your people. This is your place, and we hope to see you there. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I'm going to end the stream, and there'll be a little outro video with other ways you can follow and consume this content from Scofie and our friends. So thanks for being here. We'll catch you in the next one.